Morning, everyone. It's my great pleasure to welcome so many guests into chapel this morning. We've got many of you know, we had a board meeting yesterday, so we've got lots of our governors here, and it's the first time they've been back on campus since October 2019, and I so deeply appreciate the level of support you've given us, especially during the pandemic, and it is such a pleasure to welcome you back to campus. We've also have alumni here who've come back for this particular service. We've got other guests, people ranging from London to Afghanistan to Nepal to many other places, and it's such a treat that you're here, and many of you will be contributing to this morning's service. So, to the school, we're going to be singing hymn number 10, Be Thou My Vision. Let's show our guests how we sing at Shawnigan.
Thank you all. Please be seated. So as Mr. Lamont said, we are a community that gathers from all over the world, and today especially, I think. So as we gather, we acknowledge that we're a community gathering on the territorial ancestral lands of the Cowichan tribes and the Malahat people, and we remember them as we gather. And I just want to add my welcome to the headmasters. It's so nice to have so much of the Shawnigan family together, not just guests, but family members. So it's so nice to have you all here. Lots going on this morning in chapel, and we are, of course, celebrating our relationship with SMD School in Kathmandu. So we're going to hopefully have a little taste maybe of the Tibetan Buddhist culture, which is such a beautiful and deep religion and culture. And I'm going to start by asking Mike Shao, one of our special guests, to come up. He's going to speak for a few moments to us and introduce a video that really will give us a real sense of what goes on at SMD. So Mike.
Thank you, Reverend Holland, and thank you, Shawnigan Lake School, for having me here, and it's great to be with you all today. I'm just going to share a little story, because who doesn't love story time? And it's about how I connected, my wife and I, how we connected with Nepal back in 2012. So we led an expedition into this little remote valley in one of the most isolated corners of Nepal, the Himalaya, northern Nepal. And it was my dream since I was about your age to climb in the Himalaya. And I had identified this pyramidal peak through a photograph, and that was my goal, to climb this mountain. I will say I did not climb the mountain. I got caught in a snowstorm at 17,000 feet, and the mule that was carrying my climbing gear ran away. But circumstances led us to this other little village called Nar. And this valley, it had been closed off for generations. Just a few years before we were there, it had opened up, but prior to that, it had been closed off. And so this little village, multiple days to get there over high mountain passes, no education, no healthcare, no electricity, no running water, very, very rough life. And so it was there that I learned about this little stone school. And when we visited this stone school, we had a moment there that changed the trajectory of our lives. And I'd like to read a little bit from a book I wrote, which is called The Story of Karma, which describes that scene of meeting a little girl that changed all of our lives. This was as we get to the little stone school. In the center of the square, I counted 17 small children, ranging from 3 to 7 in age. Sitting on wooden school benches they had dragged outside and placed in neat rows facing the teacher, a little girl. Most of them were dressed in old raggedy clothes, but a handful wore school uniforms, dusty and frayed at the seams. The uniforms consisted of pants, most of which were so large they had to be hiked up around their tiny waists and held up by string, topped by navy blue sweaters worn over baby blue collared shirts. Black ties decorated with tiny white dots hung loosely around their necks. Some of the boys wore colorfully woolly toques with ear flaps that draped over their shoulders. Others wore loosely fitting ball caps. Most of the girls had wrapped their heads in bright scarves of different colors. All the children had cheeks burnished a deep red by the sun, some of them so badly sunburnt they had blisters on their faces. Many of them also seemed to be suffering from perpetual colds, with thick yellow snot dripping down their upper lips. At the head of the courtyard, where we would have expected to see the schoolmaster Jason and Eric had met the previous day, was a child no taller than the chipped wood frame of the chalkboard behind her. It was she who was teaching the class. In her left hand, she was holding a white pencil and pointing it one by one to the numerals on the board. The numerals were written out in English script, which differs from the Nepali. She recited each number to the class with the poise and authority of someone teaching in a university auditorium. And the entire class followed her without missing a beat, repeating the numbers 1 through 70 in English in unison. We watched as they went through their recitation, clearly articulating each of the numbers as seriously as if they were reading scripture, and then they started over. Soon the little girl had made it through all the English numbers for the second time, and it wasn't long before the children's attention turned to their visitors, in particular to the guitar slung over our musician Michael's shoulder. They had likely never seen such an instrument, let alone heard the sounds from one. It piqued the teacher's interest as well, and he indicated by gesture that we were welcome to teach the kids a bit of music. Entertainer that he was, Michael didn't hesitate an instant to move to the front of the class. With a large grin on his face, he strummed a few opening chords. The children were captivated at once. All eyes were fixed on him as they eagerly awaited what would come next. Michael proceeded to teach the children the lyrics to Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. But this was no ordinary version. It was a jazzed-up rendition, a fresh tempo with all sorts of unexpected melodic twists. Somehow the kids caught on, singing the lyrics back to the bard in perfect unison. And then Michael really put his guitar into action, and accompanied by the soft chorus of children's voices, he soon had the mountain classroom rocking to the rhythms of his songs. The music even enlivened the schoolteacher, who brought out a traditional Nepali drum. He directed all the children, except for one, the little girl who had been teaching the class, to organize themselves in a row. She apparently was expected to perform for us. After some brief commands in the Nepali language, he started to tap the edge of the drum with his hands, waiting for the child to demonstrate a traditional Nepali dance. But the little girl, who had stood so proudly and confidently before her class, now seemed frozen. Now that she had been singled out from her peers and put in front of an audience of strangers, she stood motionless, head bowed, hands clasped in front of her. When the teacher pulled her forward, she balked, looking like a petrified animal. But the teacher kept playing while everyone else looked on, still waiting for her to dance. The longer this went on, the more distraught the little girl appeared. Chantal couldn't take it any longer. Something stirred within her. Maybe it was the years of performance anxiety she herself had endured in her youth when she was training as a classical violinist. Maybe it was because she simply felt for the little girl, remembering a time when she too had been singled out against her wishes to perform in front of her classmates. Whatever the reason, Chantal suddenly marched forward and took her place in front of the child, focusing all her attention on her. Slowly she began to move her hips and wave her arms in the air. What ensued was a smorgasbord of dance moves. It was Chantal's best imitation of a traditional Nepali dance, and it would have to do. The girl's eyes lit up in surprise as she watched Chantal. Her face relaxed into an expression of relief. She had been rescued. A smile came to her lips, revealing a missing baby tooth in the front and soft dimples in her cheeks. And then the girl followed Chantal's lead, watching her feet, her arms, her hips, as she meticulously attempted to imitate each one of Chantal's improvised moves. Chantal's eyes began to glow as their eyes locked into each other's. They danced side by side in their own world, like two spirits reveling in the joy of their movement and their connection to each other, before an audience of snow-clad Himalayan giants. As the tapping from the teacher on his drum died down into silence, Chantal embraced the girl and, placing her hands under her arms, lifted her into the air in a gesture of triumph. In response, the girl held fast to Chantal's arms, and her cautious smile erupted into a huge gap-toothed grin. From her face shone happiness so pure that it felt as though time itself had ceased to move. That moment changed all of our lives. The little girl's name is Karma. She was 7 years old when we met, and we found out that her biggest dream was to have education. And we were able to meet with her family in their little stone home with a little dung-fueled stove in the middle. Their father was off herding yaks, but their mother was there. And when we got there, actually, their mother was still in the field, but Karma brought us in by the hand and put out the mats for us to sit on and got the fire going and the water for the kettle, all while taking care of her 3-year-old sister, Pemba. And her mother eventually came back, and we had a beautiful time together, all through broken translation, but they expressed that education was the biggest dream they could ever hope and ask for. And so this was back in 2012. Over the years, we kept going. Chantal and I kept going back to Nepal, meeting with the family and Karma and her little sister Pemba. And we've been growing together as family over the last 10 years and kind of co-parenting, working with her parents and trying to come together to do what's best for these two little girls. I've got many more stories to share. I'll just share one more, which kind of gives an insight into perhaps how the mountain children approach life and kind of their lens that they bring to the Western world. Because in 2018, it was one of the requests for the parents that they wanted to see if the girls could have an education exchange in Canada. And so we worked with SMD, and it took a small miracle, but we brought Karma and Pemba here for a year. Pemba was just 10 years old, and Karma was 14. And I remember one day we were racing around the house, and I said to the girls, I said, come on, girls. We were late for an event. I said, get your shoes, get your jackets on. we got to go, we're late. And little Pemba, 10 years old, she put her hand on my arm, and she said, Mike, if we were to behave like this in my village, everybody would think that we're sick. I said, you know what, you're right. Let's just calm and breathe. We can be present here. But with that, I just wanted to introduce this little film on SMD School that Chantal and my friend James put together, and I think it'll give an insight into the school itself and what life is like there. Thank you very much.
I am Nela Sangmo. I come from a high mountain village in Nubri. It's in a very remote part of the Himalayas in Nepal. It takes a week or more to reach my village from Kathmandu. I was only 6 when I left my family and village. There was no electricity, no sanitation, no healthcare, and no education. My uncle is a monk and found me in a place at SMD school. It's a boarding school for poor Himalayan kids in Kathmandu. I was so lucky that I could go. Other kids in my village died when they were very little because of common childhood disease, diarrhea, or malnutrition. SMD is my second home now. With over 500 kids here, it's definitely crowded, but we are grateful and happy here. We are one big family. Our root Lama Tangku Rinpoche founded SMD 30 years ago. He wants to help poor kids from the Himalayas. He gave us the tool to build a better future so we can help our own people when we grow up. Every morning we wake up at 5 and go to class 6 days a week. We study English, math, social, computer, and science. We also learn Nepali and Tibetan. We do meditation and prayers and live by what Buddha taught. We call this as Dharma. Nepal's culture is mainly Hindu, but at school we are culturally and linguistically Tibetan, and our thinking is Buddhist. SMD has hundreds of supporters from countries around the world who make all of this possible. But our school administrators still work so hard to make ends meet. After the devastating earthquake of 2015, we studied in temporary classrooms and ate under the tin roofs for 2 years until we could complete the major building repairs and retrofits. It's been 17 years since I joined the SMD family. I have been passionate about healthcare since I was a young girl. After graduating grade 10 at SMD school, I gave service to the school and took a 3 years health assistant training programs. After that, I moved to a remote mountain village to help the essential medical care. Today, I work at SMD School Clinic half-time, which allows me to also take an undergraduate degree in public health. It is my wish to fulfill Tangku Rinpoche's aim and repay his generosity. I think I can succeed by helping my people through healthcare because the need is great. I would like to thank my sponsors and everyone who has supported me. And I wish that SMD will flourish so that many more Himalayan children will receive the benefits that I received. I hope that many more people will support SMD School by sponsoring a student.
Where's Mike? Thank you for that, Mike. Thank you. Yes. We have another special guest here. He's a monk from the lineage of Thrangu Rinpoche. He lives in Vancouver at the monastery there. And I know he has illustrious titles and such, but he's just asked us to introduce him and to refer to him as Sangpo. So he's going to come up and offer a prayer and perhaps some reflections this morning.
Good morning, everyone. As Reb has advised me to say a few prayers in Tibetan, so firstly I will make up prayers. And as I will be praying in Tibetan language, so you might don't understand, but I will just go briefly about the prayers. In Tibetan Buddhism, whenever we do the auspicious things like start your good connection, positive actions, we have a custom of doing the prayers in order to remove all the obstacles and bring success and complete the positive action, whatever you're doing for. So that's why, since as a Tibetan Buddhism, we always believe in interdependent. So we are all interdependent to each other. So with the praying, we generate positive actions and positive relations to each other, as well as all the sentient beings. And because of that positive actions and positive result, it will come all our action to be as a positive result. So I will just pray few prayers. Seje lombora dabo jebe ngwe shaje jabo che la ngwe choe zo om na se nanda ran she lunde be da she jo jo shin do jim sanje je dan je de mo me zo ngon la cho zo do jo da she jo do me je do zo do da do nga jam be je bo je da bon kon la ngon ba je je da bo je lombo da bo za da bo dan ne sim je la je la ngon da be ba ye zen ze bo za da Senzam de be da je bo be won de bra shi bo je lo cha zo lo jam bo shi no bo den de je se je re se wong bo jam sa ye ni bo de bo nam bo ze nam ge ni bo pa jong un do zo o bo de je be ngo lo she lo no bo da wa ra de ni ma ye cha za na na da je be chan jo zem bo je lo cha zo lo rin chen du jo da she she ye nya de je mun sa yu wong ga ma la nyan da do do zo bo Minua jaze wanje ngolo derin chen da jo je je jaze je cho do je wa che chen je je ma je zo ngo be de be ba be ba da be jam bo je la sam bo chen bo de jo sim bo mi don den da je bo yu go so ba je bo da lu wa me me so nam de se de la zo ngolo da de jo la dan du do de je pi om ro de je de se zum de zo je le de je be je de jong wa je la cha zo lo da jo den de jo wa zum bo la je da nye bo zo bo ngo de de bo be Tashi de le mo zon zo moro e shu sim je nam je lo jo zo dong bo xin ye lao do zo chu zhou bo xin li lam zhou bo zo bo xin ye lao do zo chu bo ye shi zo chao bo xin ye lao do so nam de ye tam je si bo nye tom de nye be da nam kien ga na je bo lo zhou bo ye si be zo le zhou wen zhou moro e shu. So I have just finished my prayers. And I would like to say a few words regarding the Tibetan Buddhism. I am extremely delighted and honored to be here in this holy place with all of you. And I would like to thank all the directors, teachers, students, as well as sponsor and Reverend Holland to give me an opportunity to be here in this holy and blissful place. As I am a Tibetan Buddhism, I will just, as we know, there's lots of books and lots of teachers and lots of temples about the
of the Tibetan Buddhism, but I will just, in a short, I will just go through the essence of the Tibetan Buddhism. So the essence of Tibetan Buddhism is it goes like a dikpa chiyang mijashing gewa punsum chokbarche rangi simne yongsu dul dine sangye tembayin, which means never ever commit any wrong actions. Practice abandon virtue. Completely tame your own mind. This is the teachings of Buddha. So which means it includes everything in short. So which means we have lots of religion all around the world, but all the intention or the goal of the religion is the same, to be a good human being. And these days, I think we have lots of young generation who are atheists. I don't say they have a problem, it is a good thing, but it's okay as long as we are good human beings. But sometimes we forget to be a good human beings, and that's why it becomes more complicated things. So no matter if you believe in religion, if you don't believe in religion, it's okay if you believe in religion, but the most important part is to be kind to each other, to help each other, and to contribute your time and service to the public or to the poor ones, to the people who are having suffering. And so I would like to thank all the Shonigin for helping all the Himalayan children, because when we talk about the Himalayan children, sometimes when we don't see it, we don't really feel it. You can see, watch videos, movies, but we don't really feel it because you never really experience. I myself as one of the Himalayan kid, and I've been through the SMD for almost 4 years when I was a monk. And now the SMD has almost 700 to 800 students from the poor village and desperate to seek the modern knowledge. So as I've seen all the sponsors and Shonigin helping those Himalayan children, so I'm really appreciated and I am really grateful, and I would like to thank everyone, sponsors, teachers, and directors, and the Reverend Holland, and everyone for supporting the humankind and being compassion and your kindness. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, Sangpo, for honoring us, with, especially for that beautiful prayer. Thank you. So just a few words from me. Last week, Mrs. Rev made a salad. We were having some guests over, so she made a salad with various cheeses and things in it, and we didn't have room in our fridge for it. We have a tiny fridge. So she put it outside on the deck overnight and wrapped it up in a plastic bag. And the next morning, she came out, and the salad bag was neatly taken off, and about a third to a half of the salad had been eaten. So we wondered about this. Squirrels? Raccoons? Rats? But the mystery was solved the next day when a feral cat who lived in the woods by our house came skulking up to the deck, no doubt looking for the second course. So this is who had eaten the salad. And according to our neighbors, this was actually a mama cat who had just given birth to 5 little baby kittens, little black and orange kittens. And she was nursing them, so of course she was starving. She was trying to take care of her baby. She didn't have time to hunt, and she didn't have a source of food. So even a salad at that point was interesting for her. Of course, I had to let you know that neighbor decided to feed her at least until the kittens were grown, and they all seem to be doing okay now. So I tell that story partly because it reminds me, that event reminds me of a story that I brought back from Kathmandu when I was there, I think in 2018 or 2018. So during that visit, a small group of us, which included our beloved Tenzin, hiked up a mountain to Namu Buddha Monastery, which is a place of great beauty and wonder. And when we got up there, we toured around, and part of one of the things that's there is a shrine that commemorates an event in the life of Lord Buddha. It's a shrine that depicts an event where Buddha, in one of his incarnations, came upon a mother tiger who was nursing her little newborn kittens. What do you call baby tigers? Little baby tigers. And of course, she also didn't have time to hunt, and she was taking care of her kittens and nursing them, so she was also starving. So the Buddha, in this incarnation, gave himself as food for the mother tiger to save her and her babies. Beautiful story, a bit shocking perhaps, but a beautiful story. And it really, it conveys the lesson, of course, that I think, if I may, I think at the heart of the Buddhist culture is, and something that's sorely lacking, I think, in our own commercial culture, often our own consumer culture, is that human beings have evolved to support and help life flourish on this planet. That is how we have, as humans, evolved uniquely, that we have the capacity to understand what needs to be done in order for life to flourish, and we have the capacity to provide that care and compassion. Of course, the problem is we have also evolved in such a way as to have the capacity for great destruction, don't we? We have the capacity to destroy the environment as well. And humans throughout the world often seem to have twisted our evolutionary path in just such a direction. And of course, we know the great tragedy is that when we use up the earth, it will not have the capacity to sustain human and other life. So we have been given an abundant world and have been given the responsibility to care for it with tenderness and compassion. We have evolved this unique capacity, not just to care for the world, but to be awed by the beauty of the world, and also we have the capacity to be grateful, to give thanks. So human beings are special creatures. We're part of nature, but we also have a different kind of relationship with the world than the rest of the natural world. So this, I think, wisdom is at the heart of Buddhist culture and our First Nations culture and many other religious and spiritual cultures as well. That we have a purpose, and the purpose that we have is to care for the earth. And when we become alienated from that purpose because of greed, fear, envy, the earth suffers and we suffer. So the solution to the earth's problems is not to create a new way of being, but for us simply to live in accordance with our own true nature and purpose. To nurture the earth and to recognize that it generously provides everything we need. It gives it to us and really requires very little back from us. So today, in part, is about celebrating especially Tibetan Buddhist culture. And in all Buddhist cultures, at the center is this awareness, this wisdom that it's in silence and in meditation that we are able to come into alignment with this true nature that we have, this nature of compassion and care, this nature of clarity and caring for the earth. So when I was in Kathmandu, I bought a bowl bell, which is sitting on the table over here, and I'm going to just invite you for a few moments to sit in silence, maybe just a minute. And so I'll ring the bell and ask you just to close your eyes, perhaps, and to, in whatever way that works for you, to clear your mind and just sit in silence for a few moments. And I'll ring the bell again when we're done. Thank you all. So after that silence, for a little noise, Robin Shu is going to play for us. Robin, are you going to tell us what it is? Okay, come up and tell us what you're going to play.
Good morning, everyone. They say the more nervous you are, the more you talk, but I can't think of anything to speak right now. But so this piece I'm going to play on piano is actually from an anime called Tokyo Ghoul. It's an opening. It's called Unravel, and it's been arranged into a piano version, and it's quite difficult. So if there's some dissonance, pardon me. Just hope you enjoy.
Thank you for that, Robin. They liked it, I think. We have two people who have the distinction of being alum from SMD and from Shawnigan, and they're going to lead us in prayer this morning. So I'm going to invite Juno and Tenson to come up now.
Meditation on loving kindness. May all those who are afflicted be afflicted free. May they be serene through all their ills. Even if bodily afflictions do not subside, may we all be healed in heart and mind. May all beings live in peace and harmony. May they have health and wealth and comforts and friends that are true. May they have skills, talents, knowledge, and sweet success in all they do.
May they have joy and happiness in abundance. May all beautiful, great, and noble virtues of generosity, love, kindness, compassion, patience, fortitude, tolerance, forgiveness, honesty, courage, strength, energy, resolution, determination, resilience, perseverance, consideration, humility, gratitude, contentment, composure, seniority, wisdom, understanding, and equanimity be theirs. May they attain full wisdom and enlightenment. May they be liberated from all suffering.
Thank you, Tenzin and Juno. Our partnership with Nepal makes my heart sing. When I was head of a different school to this, back in Norway, a lady called Shirley Blair wrote to me. I think it was my first week, and I soon discovered she was this irrepressible, extraordinary lady, and she was director of SMD school. And I'm just going to embarrass her and ask her to stand for a nanosecond, Shirley, who's here. And she sent me a list of alumni from my school. And she'd taken, I remember it was a blue highlighter, and she'd gone through it and she pointed out every single student who'd come from Nepal to my school in Norway who came from the higher castes of society. And she wrote a very powerful letter to me saying, please provide scholarships for students from more underprivileged backgrounds in Nepal. And we struck up a partnership. And I had many students from SMD in the 6 years I was head of this school in Norway. And then I was appointed head of Shawnigan. And my community service used to happen on a Wednesday evening, and it was called Para Soccer. And I would take students from my school who had injuries from war, and we'd drive over to the local town, and we played soccer together. And on the way and it had students who were able-bodied and students who had disabilities and injuries from conflict. And on the way back of the day that it was announced I was leaving Red Cross Nordic and coming to Shawnigan, as I was driving, these arms enveloped me from a student behind, and his name was Kunlik, and he was from SMD, and he whispered in my ear, and he said, you know SMD students go to Shawnigan, which was a complete shock to me. And there was this natural collision, and there was a natural symmetry, and I couldn't believe a school in British Columbia, Vancouver Island, also had a partnership with SMD, and it comes from Shirley's outreach. I think you're from Vancouver Island originally, before moving to Kathmandu. And this extraordinary partnership between Shawnigan and SMD has been created. And the students who've been here, and I think I'm right in saying TD, Junu, Tenzin, and now Yangchen. Junu was the first one I met, and she's off to medical school, hopefully, soon. And Tenzin, many of you know, who was in Strath and left last year and is now at SFU. Not many people want to hug the head of school. But Tenzin did this morning. She saw me, strode over, enveloped me in a gigantic hug, and she said, "You know what? I didn't sleep last night. I was so excited to come back to Shawnigan." She's also a fabulous rugby player, and of course Yang Chen, who's not here today, who's currently in Groves, is away with the girls' squad and has her bronze medal game with the girls' rugby squad today. So we have these exceptional students in our midst. What I think our Nepalese students teach us a great deal is about humble leadership. And your natural humility is absolutely infectious within the student body. And you understand compassion and you deliver compassion to anyone who comes within the 5-meter radius of you. And I think that's part of your teaching that you receive at SMD. I also have another special student from Nepal who's called Harry, who didn't come from SMD, but he's an associate member of SMD. He's now studying at the College of Idaho. And he's friends with all the former students from my old school who are at SMD. And he is probably one of the most remarkable students I've ever come across. He was the 11th child from a hill village. And at 11, he wasn't allowed to go to school. He was sent off to a hotel, a day's bus ride away, to wash dishes and to bring some income back to his family. Until one day, as he was on that bus, the Maoists, Nepal is a country which is a post-conflict country now, the Maoists, who are now in government but were then the terrorist organization, laid a landmine targeting the bus he was on, a civilian bus with lots of people from these remote villages. And it blew up, and he witnessed pretty much everyone die on the bus around him as the bus completely exploded. And he still suffers some trauma from it. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying that. The pregnant lady next to him was blown apart. And he came to us on scholarship at Red Cross Nordic. And he is the most remarkable guy. I think he's now head of the student union at the College of Idaho. He also had the spirit of the Sherpa in him. And we both walked and climbed Norway's highest mountain. I have a deep fear of heights. Harry got me to the top and back. And one day, I hope he will come and visit and connect with all of you. He also rather sweetly kept bugging me in my office one day, asking if he could have a chat. And I said, well, why don't you come to my house later? And we had this sort of mantelpiece conversation where he asked me if he could invite out my stepdaughter, Phoebe, to the prom. I was delighted. My eyes lit up. Future son-in-law, absolutely perfect. Phoebe did accept. Love did not blossom, much to my dismay. And I thought about it this morning. I often reference the Dalai Lama, and I think what our Nepalese students bring in abundance is that message of the 14th Dalai Lama, which is, be kind whenever possible. It's always possible. And I think for us as students and as adults and staff members, that's such a sort of crux in our thinking. We all have the capacity for unkindness and unpleasantness, but it's so good just to think about that. Let's always be kind whenever possible, because it absolutely is always possible. I am going to switch gears a little bit. I am sporting a tie that only came into existence a couple of days ago. Alex Mrjinovic of Duxbury, his soul-seeking project was to design a new tie, and he's created a first 15 rugby tie, and he gave me one before they went on the bus to the provincials. Some of you will have heard the results. The girls are playing for the bronze medal this afternoon. Our Colts won the gold. They won the BC provincial banner and are champions, having beaten St George's and winning in the last 5 minutes, or overtaking them and having lost to them twice earlier in the season. So the underdogs triumphed, and our boys' first 15 are playing at 5 o'clock in a supporters bus, and you can also have the opportunity of watching it online. So let us send our sort of telepathize to them our dream of their success. And of course, we've got lots of rowing results coming in from St Catherine's at the moment. And the last thing I wanted to say is we also have a former head of Shawnigan in the building. Right in the front row here, we have Simon Bruce Lockett, who's an absolutely inspiring head of school here for 10 years, and of course Joanne, who was an inspiring teacher here for many years in the social studies department. It's an absolute pleasure to have you in our midst, and welcome back. We haven't seen you since the pandemic, and it feels great to have you in here sitting on the front row. Amazing Grace, hymn number 6. Let's sing it to the rooftops. Please stand.